Sound check 1, ACPD, February 11th, sound check 1.
Hello, everybody. We're waiting to go live, so we're just waiting for quorum. Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody. We have quorum. Welcome to the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities from February 11th, 2025. I will now commence a roll call. Please indicate your presence when I call your name. Hope Bonenfant, and I know you're having an audio problem.
Here, can you hear me by chance, or?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Benjamin Cullimore? No. Lance Dingman? Here. Thank you. Kara Hermel, we have regrets. Levi Genosi?
I'm here.
Thank you. Leif Johansson? No. Hargenkar?
Here.
Perfect. Paula Kilburn?
Here.
Thank you. Jake has sent his regrets. Mark McNeil?
Here.
Thank you. Tim Murphy? No. Kim Nolan? Nope. Tim Nolan? Nope. Robert Westbrook? And Councillor Mark Taddison? I see your lips moving, so I'm going to say you're here. Okay. Would the staff who are present please introduce themselves with their name and position?
Carrie McIntosh, Legislative Coordinator.
Tamara Bates, Legislative Coordinator.
Rebecca Benke, Project Manager, Community Inclusion and Equity.
Okay.
Michelle Martin, Manager of Accessible Transportation Services with the Transit Division.
Okay.
Lauren Vreich, Senior Project Manager, Community Engagement.
Thank you.
Sunil Angrish, Project Manager, Community Inclusion and Equity.
Thank you. Matthew?
And online, Matthew Trenum, City Clerk.
Thank you.
Also online, Shah Yazdanian, Business Relationship Manager for Corporate Services from IT.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other staff present? I am seeing none. Call to order. It's a little out of order, I think. Anyways, 2, ceremonial activities. Elsie McIntosh will now read the Hamilton Land Acknowledgement.
The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes.
Thank you very much, Elsie McIntosh.
We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, North America, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers.
Thank you, Elsie McIntosh. I apologize. This was normally a one-page thing. I wasn't used to it being over 2 pages. I apologize. 3, approval of agenda. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented?
Mark.
Lance. Mark and Lance, thank you. Is there anybody opposed to the agenda as presented? Seeing none. Motion's carried. Okay. 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I'm seeing none, so we can move on. Thank you. 5, approval of minutes of the previous meeting, January 14th, 2024. May I please have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes as presented?
I move.
Levi and
Mark.
Mark, sure. Is there any discussion on the minutes of last month? I'm seeing none. We'll go straight to the vote. Are there any opposed to the minutes of last month? Okay, and that's carried. Thank you. 7, items for information. 7.1, questions respecting committee procedures and election accessibility. Matthew Trenum, City Clerk, is present to discuss this item. Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I was asked to be present really just to get feedback from the committee to see if there are any questions as we're starting to especially move towards the election. We recently had a by-election. We have some lessons learned and got to test our new team and how things are working with that. But as we prepare, of course, for 2026, a lot of work at this time really is going into setting up our procedures and our work plans. So we're happy to take feedback, questions, advice at this time that we can bring back to our elections team for either more detailed responses for the committees or for the committee or just for our own work. And then with regards to procedures, again, I'm happy to sort of speak to any questions that you might have. And I know there's some other staff on that might be able to assist with that. But really, I'm at your disposal, Chair.
Paula, you're muted.
How's that? Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Okay. Questions. There's always questions around the elections. First of all, how many post polls will there be with accessible computers? Secondly, the templates for voting. I can never vote. I'm visually impaired, so when you give me a template with holes in, it makes no sense to me because you give me the holes, you give me the numbers, but I don't have a list of councillors that I am voting for in Braille. So I still cannot vote independently. So can you tell me if that's going to change?
So absolutely. Let me first say that in terms of accessible technology, as a test drive for our by-election, what we did is we had the tabulator at every poll include the accessibility equipment. And we're looking at the feasibility of that for all polls. So every poll that we have would have an accessible tabulator. So the ability for an individual to approach any poll within a certain ward and be able to use an accessible machine as opposed to finding, say, the one poll that has an accessible machine. So that's our goal. That's what we'd like to work towards, to ultimately have one available at every poll. I'll say that we're not sure how many polls we'll have yet. This was also our first time of using online voting, which was successful in those that came out, and there was a lot of really positive feedback from that, and some potential additional accessibility factors to consider, of course, but it all comes into the fold of decisions around this. But certainly we're looking at that. That's excellent feedback in terms of your ability to vote independently without that additional list and the appropriate tools to really allow you to use that ballot appropriately if you're not using the accessible equipment. So let me take that back. I think that's really valuable feedback that we can look into to see what additional resources or tools we can provide for someone who would be have a visual impairment and require a tool to allow them to do it independently. No, I think that's excellent. So I will take that away.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Matthew on elections?
Thanks. Tomorrow.
I'm seeing none. Paula, can you take the chair for a moment? You got to unmute again. Sorry. Okay. I ask Mark to take the chair, please.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. Paula's back.
I'm
Apologize.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
If you could take the chair then, please. Thank you.
I'm taking the chair for what reason? Oh, to ask a question. You have a question, James, for Matt?
Thank you. The last two municipal elections I voted in, the very first one, I can't remember exactly what year it was. I voted about the same location. I both voted in the Notre Dame school in the Cumberland Gauge area. And the first time I went there, I was very impressed by the accessibility of the site. It was clearly marked. It was easy to access. People were directing people the proper way through the doors. Getting in and out of the building was easy. But the last election, it was a different experience entirely. There wasn't proper signs marking. People were being directed in walkers to go down 2 or 3 stairs down the grass. It was kind of an unsafe environment. And I just want to clarify the consistency of the accessibility plan on all of these sites. I don't think it was a question. I think it was just a comment or concern for the next time.
So through the chair, I can certainly speak to that comment at least. And, I am in agreement that the feeling of attending any of the polls really should be as standardized as possible. And that is ultimately our goal. And what I do know is, at least since the previous election, a lot of work has gone into updating the accessibility checklists and the requirements that we tick off as we attend any of our sites ahead of time. Very much looking forward, or looking for that look and feel in a site selection. Is there truly an accessible access point? Are we forced to go through a certain set of rooms if it is accessible? So is the accessible door way off to the side, making it much more complex, requiring more signage, more people? If that's the case, that location just isn't suitable. So all of that is certainly into what we are considering and as part of our overall checklist. And I would say we've improved that since the last election, and there's certainly been a lot of staff turnover, perhaps between the two that you're speaking of. But since the last one, much more documentation, much more in the way of trying to standardize our approach to this. So I would hope and certainly plan on the feel of this election being much closer to the first one.
Excellent. Thank you. In the election that's coming up, the provincial election, I noticed something in the ballot information. It mentioned that you have to make an appointment to access an accessible balloting system. Is that something you have to do for the municipal election, make an appointment, or is it just available anytime you can attend?
No, our process in previous elections has been, if there's only specific sites that have accessible voting equipment, we're advertising when those are, and you just would attend there to vote as you would any polling station, and the option is just there to use the accessible equipment. And again, our goal is to expand that to have them ideally available at all locations.
Excellent. Thank you. In my experience, the municipal elections are much more accessible than the other two levels of government. So that's a good sign. I'll take the chair back now, Paula.
You may have the chair, sir. Can I ask a question then?
I believe so. If nobody else is up, I don't think so. So yes, go ahead.
Okay. The online voting, do you know if it's accessible to a screen reader?
So through you, Chair, yes, that is one of our requirements as well, that it can be used by a screen reader. And we've had that tested. I know again, we don't know our method of voting for 2026, so that may or may not include online voting. But that would be one of our requirements if we were to go that route, that even in the selection of colors, font sizes, ability to use it on various different devices, as well as use a screen reader, as well as multiple languages, all go into the decision-making process of choosing a vendor that would provide that service.
Have you ever had anybody that actually uses a screen reader do it for you? Test it?
So I have not personally. It was done through our third-party provider. But again, that is something that, were we to roll this out to the 2026 election across, again, all wards, that's something that we would want to do.
Okay, because I could help you with that, but that's okay. The, I believe the last election we had where you would bring the ballots out to somebody at curbside if they weren't able to get into the polling station. Will that be happening again this year, next year? So,
I'm sorry, I think I missed a part of that. Could I just ask through the chair that you say that again?
yes, I believe the last election, municipal election, if you were not able to access the polling station, they brought the ballot out to you at curbside. Is that still something that you will be doing again?
Yes, that's still part of our procedures. So if an individual comes to a site and they, for whatever reason, can't enter the site or are unable to leave the vehicle, we have it in our process and procedures how each location can facilitate that, the ballot coming out to the vehicle.
Okay, and I will say last time you had an election, there were many more volunteers there to help people with directions to the actual room where the polling was. It was so much better. I thank you for that.
Okay.
That's it, James. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Matthew on the elections? Seeing none. Let's move on to policy and procedures. Now, you notice some of the procedures have changed slightly, just some of the way that the agendas look. Does anybody have any questions on any of these recent changes?
I do.
Paula?
Is it just wordage that's changed? Have any of the procedures changed, like motions, notice of motions, anything like that changed?
So through you, Chair, the majority of the changes or updates, I would say were housekeeping. The look and feel, let me rephrase that, not the look and feel. The order on the agendas is a little bit different. It's sort of been cleaned up a bit. Essentially, it's a difference of an item that is only for information purposes versus an item that is for consideration, meaning it has specific recommendations for the committee to make or to move forward. We've standardized what those agendas look like across all of the committees, including our standing committees. A lot of the other changes with regards to procedure are probably a little more focused on standing committee and council than they would for this particular committee. There were new templates that were approved that are aimed to be a little bit more accessible, a little simpler, easier to read for a screen reader, for example, more taken into account with that, as well as better directions to staff, which are in motion on how to write better reports to make them easier to read and easier to function and to keep them accessible. So if they're adding an image, for example, what does that mean for a screen reader versus, you know, something with color? So how do we get that message across? So a lot of that work is sort of where we're going with it. If there are specific questions or areas, we can certainly address that. But overall, I would say the next biggest change is really just with regards to the voting for standing committees. But again, that's more for standing committees and council than it would impact this committee.
Good. And I know this is not this committee, but council meetings, when you put things up on the screen on council meetings, like PowerPoints and things like that, somebody with visual loss does not know what's going on. Is there any way we can change that?
Sorry, to have somebody through you, Chair, describing what's on screen at each time? Okay, that's great feedback. I don't have an answer for you right now, but absolutely, I'll have that as a takeaway and see what we can report back with.
Okay, thank you. That's it, James. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. That was a good question. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on the new policy and procedures? Seeing none. Okay, and there was one other thing I'd like to discuss, Matthew. So if you could take the chair, please, Paula.
Yes, I take the chair, sir.
Accommodations, one of the things we're having troubles with is note-taking. We've discussed using an AI system, and we've been told to discuss it with IT, which I believe IT is here at the moment, Is it possible for us to use some sort of AI note taker as a permanent accommodation to the committee for working groups and whatnot? I know there's some security issues with the recent cyber update, so we've been patiently waiting to have a conversation on that.
Yeah, so through the chair, I know that we have some limitations in the technology that we have. We do have somebody from IT that can perhaps speak to this. And I think the majority of the issue really is with your working groups, which of course, having the ability to sort of transcribe and have a real understanding of what's been said and be able to bring that back to this committee if I'm correct. That would, and again, if Shaw is on and can comment on it, I'll defer to him. But we may be able to come up with something that individuals could use on their own systems to be able to prepare notes, and then those particular notes are just what come back to us to facilitate on our systems. We just wouldn't want sort of a something going through a city system that is not pre-approved and gone through IT approvals, if that makes sense. And again, I believe Shaw is online, so I'll just see if he's available. But I do take this as good feedback, that maybe it's something that we need to be putting our minds to in terms of what we have available and what could be added to our systems to allow for this. Again, that comes with some complexity in terms of providing access to our own systems to volunteer members and members of the public. So I can't speak to that from a policy perspective, but I can certainly say it's something that we want to continue looking into.
If I can jump in and explain from the technical side where we're at. There have been considerations about AI note-taking tools to actually be turned on and utilized by city staff currently. Right now in Microsoft Teams, which is the standard platform the city uses internally, we do.
I apologize.
That's quite right. So we actually do have that in preview. It's something that I'm working to get enabled for some testing. We're still a little while away before this can actually be formally rolled out. Now, I know that that most of these committees run on WebEx, and if we are sticking with WebEx, there are other considerations we have to make, and that's something we're currently looking into to just so we can find you some options that will be that'll be appropriate for assistance in general. We do understand, and we've taken the feedback that some assistive technology might be necessary.
Thank you, Shaw. Just to give you a bit of background, for the past roughly year, a number of us have been experimenting with Otter AI as a free trial basis. But of course, you only get the first half hour transcription free, whatnot. So, but we found it actually quite useful. It took a while to get used to, but we found it quite beneficial for note-taking purposes. So that's just where the question's really coming from. We just like to know, and we're using Teams mostly for working groups. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Chair. So if you are using Teams primarily, I believe there should be some options that are built in shortly. I'm still waiting on a definite date. We are also working through an AI policy. One was submitted within the city, but I think there's still some adjustments that need to be made for it to be formalized. I personally don't see an issue, but I'm not the leading authority on all things security. I would defer to my other technical teams. But I hope to come back shortly with a proper answer, and then maybe can help with a tool that can actually be of use. That's the goal.
Thanks very much, Shaw.
Sure.
I will take the chair back, Paula.
Okay, I have one question.
I have Mark up first, and then you can go after Mark. Go ahead, Mark. You're muted, Mark.
I just wanted to mention that participation would be greatly enhanced with the use of some sort of AI note-taking tool. Faster can be beta tested, more appreciative I would certainly be.
Okay.
That's just a comment.
Thanks, Mark. Paula.
Okay. This is in reference to note taking. It's not just with working groups or this group. It's with any place in the city you meet with anybody. As a person with vision loss, very difficult to take notes. I use a recorder, and I am told many, many times I'm not allowed to record. So therefore, you're taking away my means of independence to take notes. Is this a policy in the city, or is it just a personal thing with each person when you go talk to them?
So through you, Chair, I don't know if it's included in a specific policy. However, if it were, there may be some education that may be necessary in terms of reasonable accommodation and the ability to allow for that where it is an accessibility request or an accommodation request, just to allow for exactly what you're speaking to. If you're dealing with a customer service agent or somebody at a front desk, for example, certainly I can understand this may be built into just sort of a general procedure, and there may be some privacy concerns in some areas if you're in an open area where you could be recording other people and there are private information being shared. So some of that might all be concerns. But again, I think this is something that we could take back and just sort of look into and see what we have from a policy standpoint versus where accessibility and reasonable accommodations can come into play. So if it is a privacy issue, for example, can that conversation just be moved to a quiet space or a side room or somewhere where there's no risk to recording another individual, allowing for the accommodation to continue? So if it's reasonable, Chair, I'm happy to take that back and see if we can follow up on it.
Thank you, Matthew. I think so. Anything else, Paula?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
And we have Mark, second time.
Yeah, Matthew, I just wanted to point out that we had this debate at Western in 1982 about recording professors' lectures, which are now on TEDx. It's not something that shouldn't be achievable. It was extremely difficult for me to get more than 20% of a lecture down on paper without having it recorded. But I had to put it in my briefcase and have a hole cut in the microphone. Not that it was ever published, but it was certainly able to transcribe it after the fact. And that problem was solved before I graduated, 1985. I'm hoping we can solve that problem too in 2025. So the comment, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments on accommodation? I'm seeing none. Well, then I want to thank you, Matthew. It was nice to meet you, and Shaw, for coming out and discussing this with us today, and I look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Matthew.
Vote to receive the information. Do I have to first and second it?
Mark.
Okay. Mark, and seconded by Paula. Okay, great. So any opposed to receiving information? I'm seeing none. Motion's carried. Vote carried. Okay, I'm moving on to 7.2, Accessible Transportation Service Performance Review Q3 2024 revised. Michelle Martin, Manager, Accessible Transportation Services, is present to provide a presentation respecting this item. Michelle will provide her presentation, and questions can be asked by members at the end. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to the ACPD for having me here today to present the Q3 2024 quarterly report. Please know the Q4 2024 numbers are just about ready, and we hope to bring those to you next month. Before I begin the presentation, I did want to remind everybody of the history of how this report came to be. There was a 2004 Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario settlement, and under the terms of the settlement, ATS, Accessible Transportation Services, is to be providing reports at least annually on the following numbers: passenger refusals of trips, cancellations, no-shows, missed trips, trips provided, complaints, and on-time performance. They're to be provided in the form of a staff report to the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities. Historically, the information was being provided in the form of a memo with a PDF attachment of spreadsheet information. I did take a look at one of those memos from earlier and the attachments with it, and it was also actually a 20-page document similar to the length of this report, with PDFs of the spreadsheets in a smaller font size. So since the 2022 motion requiring quarterly reporting, the challenge for Accessible Transportation Services has been to break down the data and explain it as it accumulates quarterly, while adding in additional data requested by ACPD over the last few years. And I realize in putting this latest report together that it's become quite a big report. And I've been, adding in data as requested, and it's data that we have. It's not like there is additional work to produce it. It's there already. And even including, based on Public Works Committee comment, some application statistics. So when I was putting it together, I realized just how large it's become, and I want to apologize to the committee today for not taking the time ahead of this report, given the length of it, to sit down and do a deep dive into the contents and formatting with Transportation Working Group. So I wanted to say at the outset that I have requested time on the Transportation Working Group agenda with that goal in mind. So having said that, I'm going to jump into the presentation, recognizing there are a lot of numbers in the report. I'm pleased to take questions about them for any clarification you require. I hope I hit the highlights that are of interest to you. So the first figure I want to look at, or count I want to look at, is the graph that is up on the screen that describes information that is found in Table 1 of the report. It is the count of DARTS trips. DARTS is our contractor for the shared ride service, door-to-door service that is provided. The count of DARTS trips that are delivered versus the count of DARTS trips that are requested. There's a purple line above that shows the trend over 2023, and then blue columns for each of the quarters, Q1 to 3, that show that at 71%, the percentage of trips delivered versus requested in Q3 is slightly higher than it was previously, and the total number of requested trips, it's important to remember, also includes trips that are booked but not taken. So, for example, trips that have been canceled, and also passenger no-show trips. And this is also related in the report to the denial rate. So the denial rate actually accounts for the trips denied versus trips provided. So that rate actually accounts for and removes trips that were canceled. Okay, so the denial rate at the end of Q3 2024 year to date is 1.9%, which is an improvement over the Q3 rate, which was 3.1%, and is currently well below the 5% goal that was established in 2004 by the HRTO settlement. Figure 2, which is the slide now on the graph, refers to information that is also found in Table 1, and it looks at the trend from, well, it refers to the Table 1 information insofar as Table 1 includes 23 and 24 stats, but this graph has also charted the trends from 2019 to 2024, just to get a look at what they've been like, because there was some interest last time in year-over-year trends. So 2019, you see there was a sharp decrease due to the COVID-19 pandemic that remained in place through 2021. 2022, we started to see them come back up in 2023, and to where they are presently, end of Q3 in 2024, is slightly higher. So we're still on an upward trend, but we're still at only about 70% of the trips both delivered and requested compared to 2019. So figure 3, which is on the screen right now, is a graph of applications received and processed from 2019 to present year-to-date Q3 2024. The question was asked in Public Works Committee, and we had the data, so I thought it was worth including and discussing. There's a blue line that shows the trend of applications received across those years, and there's a purple line just beneath it that shows the trend of applications approved for service. And so the layers or levels of approval are broken down in the report in Table 3 for everyone. Of course, not all applications received are approved. Largely, this is due to applications that we are unable to process, and specifically, mainly because consents haven't been duly signed, and so we've had to notify applicants that this piece was missing of the application. They're notified by letter, often by phone, or their caregivers or doctor's offices. If the doctor's offices have sent the application in, we'll notify them that this piece is missing. We subsequently get the updated information, and then we're able to process the application. So, you know, these application numbers are in here to sort of give people an idea of the trends and to understand that at this point, most people, the vast majority, are approved for unconditional service, and then a smaller fraction for temporary, a smaller fraction again as visitors, and then very few people are approved only conditionally, and then even fewer people denied. Year-to-date, Q3 2024, only one person has been denied their application. The other interesting thing or important thing to remember about application numbers is it really is point-in-time data. So, for example, today I thought, well, where are we at with these unable to process applications Q3? What's the count? And we decreased from 71 to 31. So we've received information in the meantime. And it is also important to remember that there is the factor of people who have passed away, who are deceased. Sometimes we're notified, sometimes we get a return to sender letter when we've sent the notice that their application was incomplete, and sometimes we don't. So we wouldn't always capture that amount either. So, but I did want to also let the committee know that this is on the radar of Accessible Transportation Services, and the supervisor has completed a project to review a sample of applications to see precisely what sections are not being completed properly, so that we can target this for improvement, the next iteration of the application, which is going to happen this year. So figure 4 on the graph is illustrating call center queues that are answered within 5 minutes at DARTS, the contractor, which is the service standard set by the contractor. And this call center information, we started including it in the report based on ACPD comment or concern that trip denial stats don't capture people who maybe were trying to book a trip, but then hung up and gave up because they were not able to get through the queue. And so that's why these figures are included specifically in Table 6 in the report for details. You can see there's a purple line that shows the trend across 2023, which showed some improvement. It wasn't particularly great. Q1, it was around 50% of calls being answered within 5 minutes. It increased to slightly over 60% by end of 2023. And then the blue bars from Q1, Q2, and Q3 show a great deal of improvement over 2023 numbers. And in Table 6 of the report, you can see at end of Q3, it was roughly 65%. I'm not reading it from the table. I'm actually reading it from the graph, but between 60 and 70%. Better, but still work to do. I should know that I did ask, or Accessible Transportation Services did ask DARTS earlier, how calls are dequeued or removed from the queue, because it's interesting to me to see like in the call stats that the max wait time was 2 hours, when I know I haven't gotten any complaint from somebody waiting 2 hours. That seems to me that would be complained about. It's possible somebody waited that long, but also what seems to happen is there isn't a means in the phone system for dequeuing the call, so it's still being caught, even though somebody might have hung up and called back into the queue. So this is something to remember when you're looking at the call queue stats. Figure 5 on the screen and in the report refers to the count of DART's late trips compared to 2023, which is the purple line on the graph. We saw a great deal of improvement over the length of 2023, and the number of late trips is still lower across Q1 to Q3 in 2024. The blue bars show that. And the numbers for that figure are found in Table 8 of the report. The next figure on the screen, Figure 6, and Figure 6 in the report, is a graph of DART's on-time performance, and that's related, of course, to the previous figure. So on-time performance is the number of trips provided that met the service standard of arriving on time. The industry best practice is 99%. The minimum goal that we are held to, based on the 2004 Human Rights Tribunal settlement, is 95%. We saw we were getting close to 95% at the beginning of 2023. You can see in the purple line on the graph, but that 2023 saw some steady improvement. From Q1 to Q3, as shown by the blue bars on the graph, we've been steadily above 98% in Q3 at 99% on-time performance. Preliminary numbers for Q4 in 2024, we've dropped back down to slightly over 98%, but still well within the standard. We also know that there have been other impacts to service due to road closures, minor or brief systems outages. DARTS provides me with a report for those. There is also the impact of vehicles out of service awaiting for parts for repair, and due to what we know are supply chain issues, and that continues to be sort of an industry issue. So that concludes the presentation of the slides I have. Recognizing again, there's a great deal of information in the report. I'm pleased to take your questions. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for Michelle? Can't exactly see at the moment. Okay, Lance. And then,
There's your microphone. Here.
I see.
When I read that at home, I felt very pleased with them articles being so the percentages being so good and so great. I thought that was good performance. I'd be very pleased to have that worked with and presented. That's fantastic.
Through the chair, thank you very much. That is appreciated, and yes, service standards are being met, and the standards of the 2004 settlement are being met. And we also look at these numbers with an eye to continuous improvement, and that's always on our mind as well.
It's given me, also it's given me a great look towards, I know what I'm visualizing, but it's interesting to comprehend the language the way it's being performed, that's for sure.
Through the chair, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have a couple other people on the speakers list. Hargan.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great presentation. I was just wondering if you could speak to figure 2. I just noticed that the figure with the trips delivered versus requested, it seemed like the gap between the amount requested and the average amount delivered was increasing. I was just wondering if you'd be able to speak to perhaps why that may be.
Okay, so what I'm going to do there, since that figure 2 also accounts for trips that are booked but not taken, right? So the impact there is also going to be felt by cancellation rates, right? So I think the relationship there, there is going to be the factor of trip denial. So that percentage is going to be accounted for in figure 2. But also, if you look at in the report, table 7, which is sort of trip disposition from the point of view of the client, how many trips were canceled either on time or canceled late or were no shows at the door. That's also going to account for that gap. I hope that's helpful.
That is, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Hargan. Mark.
Yeah, just to ask that question again, I put it in the chat. Will there be darts doing stop and wait at the elections this year? That's been my experience for the past couple of elections. I just wanted to add that to the question. Thanks.
Through the chair, thanks for that question. I know we have done it for municipal elections as part of earlier council direction or cooperation with the municipal clerks and accessibility for voting. I'm not aware that we've done it for provincial elections. So I will have to circle back with the Director of Transit on the question. But thank you for bringing it forward.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I see Paula's hand up. Paula.
Control plus. Always up, Jay. So no one will hear. Video and content. So, question, Michelle. Do we know how many people that use arts applied for Fair Assist?
That is not, through the chair, that's not information I have at hand.
I realize that, but
yeah, that would rest with Fair Revenue. If there is interest in that information, perhaps for the Transportation Working Group, if you could email me the question, and then I'll remember to ask it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that seems like interesting information.
it is. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, in relation to darts, yes.
I was able to get support Fair Assist was able to support myself. What a fantastic program. I actually went in and booted up my card, left my card in the box, and had a rigmarole of buying another card and not being able to use my Fair Assist because my card wasn't the same card. Talked to Fair Assist, had that all dealt with, had that all back to my Fair Assist card. Everything's fantastic and working great. I can't believe how well Fair Assist was put together in such a fine fashion for us. And I feel it was well done and again, something that I'm using very frequently and getting my 30% discount.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Anything else? Okay, can you take the chair for a minute, Paula? Thank you. Hargan actually asked one of my questions already. Now, my other question is figure 4, the call center queue answered within 5 minutes. You're up to, the highest rate there is over 70%. Is there a plan in place, or do you have some sort of plan in place to get it higher?
So through the chair, the vendor has committed to reviewing all their processes and procedures. I understand they are in the midst of a review.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I'll hopefully get some more information on that soon. Okay, I'll take the chair back then, Paula. I don't have any other.
You have the chair, son.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anything else before I thank Michelle? No? Okay, so thank you very much, Michelle. Is there any discussion on the presentation? Seeing none. I need a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation and the report. Mover and a seconder. Levi, seconded by Councillor Taddison. Thank you. Is there any opposed to receiving the presentation and the report? I'm seeing none, then that is carried. Thank you very much, Michelle. Have a great day. Okay, next we're on to 7.3 to 7.8. In the interest of time, we're going to hear all the items for information, 7.3 to 7.8, and then receive them together at the end. So I'm going to relinquish the chair to Paula.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
First one, built environment.
Verbal update. We had to cancel built environment from last week. We've been trying to get several groups of staff, bike lanes, road repair, construction, and the other one was, who are we supposed to have meet? I can't remember their name. I can't remember it either. Anyways, regardless, it doesn't matter. Nobody could seem to make it for February. So March is going to be an incredibly busy meeting. We're going to seem to have them all coming to the same meeting. I doubt we're going to get to everything, but so everybody should hopefully try and attend next month's built environment. We'll get a lot done, hopefully. Moving on, I guess.
Housing working group.
Perfect. Housing working group. We reviewed the OBL for housing, went through it to make sure that we're still up to date with everything. And then we began the housing guide review. So we reviewed the first couple of sections so that we can remove some of the superfluous sections and filter it to the good stuff. Well, eventually we'll be modeling it on SAC's housing guide. It seems to be much more efficient and for its purpose. That's it for housing, I believe.
Housing working group meeting. So that's later, right?
Yep.
What do we have next then? So I'm a bit missing here, James. Outreach. Sorry.
It's okay. Outreach has 2 sets of meeting notes for January 21st and February 5th. The January 21st one, we discussed the OBL for outreach. We went through website redesign. So we went through some of the initial ideas for a new header for the website. We set a date for the fair this year. We went to September 4th for a variety of reasons. The warmth, it's warmer, the weather's better. We'll have better volunteer support, and we can probably get school-age children involved because there won't be school yet. We also discussed doing an ACPD member survey to try and improve participation. So hopefully we'll have something for the whole group soon. February 5th, we discussed the climate change initiative application, which is a motion coming up. So we discussed the game plan of how we want to lay it out. We decided basically on doing focus groups and a survey. So we should have more information on that if we get approved. I would like to put out the call that any member of ACPD can participate in this event, help set it up, or participate in the focus groups and surveys. There will be gift cards given out for participation and honorariums for putting the event together. And I also wanted to mention we had a volunteer at our last outreach working group. She volunteered with us at the Accessibility Fair and would like to participate more with Built Environment and Outreach. So I won't name her name because it's a meeting, but we look forward to seeing her more. And that should be it for outreach. I will take back the chair, Paula.
You have the chair, sir.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'll take, Hargan's got a question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Hogan. Hagan.
Oh, no worries. James, I'm just wondering what it would look like to get involved for people not part of the working group with that, with the organization as well as the survey.
It would just, we'd be having some special meetings, setting that up so they wouldn't be regular outreach meetings, they'd be extra outreach meetings. But I believe as long as we're not hitting over our quorum, we can have as many people as we want, or if we need to, we can split it up into smaller groups as well. So that's a possibility.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, James. I'd love to help out and be involved.
I'll just write you down. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so then I will take back the chair again.
You have the chair, sir.
Okay, 9.6, Transportation Working Group update.
Okay.
Verbal update.
Yep. We met and we went through the working group plan. We have some changes to make to it, but it will come back to this group next month. Outstanding business list. We didn't seem to be able to find one, so I'm going to put one together to see what needs to be continued on. There was a suggestion we need to focus more on HSR than we do on DARTs. Michelle came and we're going to do a policy review with ATS, with the passenger forward policies. So again, as James has just said about his, we're looking for people to come onto that committee so we can go through all the policies. It just doesn't have to be transportation working group members. And to be honest, James, I can't remember what else we talked about. So we will have the notes anyway for next month. So thank you.
I do have something to add to transportation. So Levi, could you take the chair for me, please, for a moment? Yes. Thank you. I had a meeting with a McMaster student last week.
Oh, yeah, she's coming next month.
It was Ali, is a gentleman, to discuss not only a transportation survey, sort of a group discussion, but also he's part of an engineering group at McMaster that are actually designing transit boxes, much like the e-ink that's being piloted in a couple of places, so that you can see what buses are coming up next at each stop. What's, is there a delay sort of thing? So they're going to be designing them for each individual stop, and they had a lot of accessibility concerns. So they'll be coming to transportation soon to discuss that with us. I just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Thank you, James. Yes, they are. They're coming next month, actually. And he's very excited to come and talk to us. So thank you, James.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to be on that policy review, please let me know.
Thanks. I'll take the chair back, Levi.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, Lance.
Let's see if I can ask a question. What does the e-box do?
Oh, the e-ink.
E-ink box. What does the e-ink box do?
We had them come and present to us with sometime within the past year. They tested a couple of them. They're mounted on top of the bus stops themselves, and it gives you a display of the upcoming buses, any sort of issues that the route is having. And
In the drivers, or another site.
no, on the bus stops themselves. So when you're waiting for a bus, if you don't have a cell phone and you can't connect with one of the online apps, you can use this service instead because it's connected to each bus stop. That's the idea. No, it's a box. It's actually like a computer screen sort of display at the stop, yes. There's a couple of that they're piloting now, but this gentleman is making them cheaper and more durable, as far as I understand.
The efficiency is to make what happens.
It's to deal with an issue that not everybody has the ability to connect to the trip planning apps like bus check services and whatnot. If you don't have a cell phone and you're not connected to Wi-Fi or data, you're not going to be able to access those services. So this is supposed to be a way of accessing it without that.
And so you don't have a way of accessing the services, you don't have a way of finding out what trips to where.
Not while you're waiting at the stop, no.
Right.
That's what it's supposed to address. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, I guess I have to relinquish the chair again for a moment.
I'll have the chair, sir. Thank you. Strategic Planning Working Group.
Yeah, there is no update. We haven't met since the summer. Actually, a couple of the issues that was on Strategic Planning Working Group's books was dealt with today when Matthew came. So that was good. I don't have anything else to add to that at the moment. And I will take back the chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Open Spaces and Parklands Working Group update. The chair is not here at the moment, so we will just have to just no update. So we'll just do 7.3 to 7.7. Okay. Then can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive items 7.3 to 7.7?
Yes, sir.
Paula, seconded by Hope. I'm going to get Hope here. Is there any discussion on any of these items? I'm seeing none. Then is there anybody opposed? Seeing none, and that is carried. Thank you. I will have to relinquish the chair again.
I'll take the chair, sir. This is your motion for the partnership opportunity with the climate justice, right?
Climate change initiatives, yep.
Right. So James, do you have you're moving this motion?
I'm moving it. I need a seconder.
Do you have a seconder?
I need a seconder.
Yes. Can we have a seconder? Mark? Thank you.
Excellent.
James,
Thank you,
can
Mark.
you read your motion, please?
I can. So this is a partnership opportunity with the Office of Climate Change Initiatives. Whereas the Office of Climate Change Initiatives have identified the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities as a community organization serving an equity-deserving group to be a potential partner in the development of a climate justice framework. Whereas the Office of Climate Change Initiatives has invited the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities to consider submitting an application to the Office of Climate Change Initiatives to partner with them in the development of a climate justice framework by hosting meaningful engagement activities for persons with disabilities, developed to gain an understanding of their needs, challenges, as well as aspirations in the face of our changing climate. Whereas the Office of Climate Initiatives has identified a budget to cover the costs incurred by this initiative and requires a report on the results of the engagement activities by June 10th, 2025. Whereas the application deadline to the Office of Climate Change Initiatives is February 12th, 2025. And whereas the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities has tasked this outreach working group with community engagement activities, therefore, be it resolved, A, that the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities authorize the Outreach Working Group to apply to the Office of Climate Change Initiatives respecting carrying out a community engagement event to gather feedback from persons with disabilities on their needs, challenges, and aspirations in the face of our changing climate in order to contribute to the development of a Climate Justice Framework, and that on receiving the results of this application of the Office of Climate Change Initiatives, the Outreach Working Group report back to the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities as soon as possible with any feedback from the Office of Climate Change Initiatives on an unsuccessful application, or 2, recommendations respecting the proposed Climate Justice Framework Community Engagement Project. I want to thank staff for getting that together for me. I appreciate that.
Do we have any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can I have, do we have to vote now? Yes?
Yep.
I get lost with this. Yes?
Yep.
Okay. So anybody against this motion? Seeing none? Motion is passed, James.
Thank you very much, Paula.
Thank
you much, everybody. Next up is adjournment. Okay, I was just going to discuss this issue before I adjourn, so I was going to mention that beforehand. Okay, so before we adjourn, we're going to have some changes as of next month. This is Rebecca's last month as the staff liaison for ACPD. We appreciate everything that you have done for us, and we wish you all the best. I also have Sunil, who is going to be our liaison moving forward. For those of you who were here before, Sunil was a liaison for a short time a couple of years ago. So does anybody have anything they'd like to say on this? Introduce yourself or anything?
I just want to say a profound thank you to the members of ACPD. This has been a real honor to work with you, and it's been a real pleasure to help you, see your plans turn into action and to be your support staff. I'm really proud of the work that we've managed to do together, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do it. And I think you'll be in good hands with Sunil, who has been given a robust handoff about all the details of our plan here and what's worked well and what hasn't, our successes and our failures, and is ready to see them grow to the next stage.
Very much, Rebecca.
Tomorrow's speaker list. Mark.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Rebecca and thank all of you for welcoming me. And I look forward to working with all of you and hopefully honor the work that Rebecca's done before and continue that good progress forward.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw a speakers list already. Mark.
Yeah, I just want to say hi to Sunil and thank you, Rebecca, for all the work you've done. I know it's been greatly appreciated.
Levi's giving you a thumbs up. Lance.
Rebecca, I remember first day meeting you. It was a pleasure, and to watch you carry yourself the way you have, it's just amazing. It's just, yeah, you've got such a style for who you are as a person. It's just incredible. I just love the way you do and handle things, and respect for what you do. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hargan gave you a heart too. No, I really have to thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I really do wish you all the best in your future. You are quite special.
James?
Yes, go ahead, Paula.
Okay. I want to thank you, Rebecca. You've been a ray of sunshine. I don't know what we're going to do without you, but I know you've left it in good hands, and I'm going to cry. I'm going to miss you so much. You've been a wonderful friend. And I hope you do well wherever you go. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I'm gonna just break up here a little bit, but I'm not disappearing. I'm not gone forever. I'm still gonna be in community. Thank you.
Yes, very much. Okay, so on that bittersweet note, then I will call an adjournment. And I want to thank everybody for coming. It was a great meeting, and I look forward to seeing you all again next month. Thanks very much, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to say there's no further business. This meeting is now adjourned at 5:21. Thanks very much.